Hello and welcome to another exam paper walkthrough. We're doing concentrating on the June 24 exam series at the moment. This is a preparation paper for 3H. Preparation, practice, predicted if you want to call it that. So this is based on good chance topics. So I produced this paper and this is taken from the topic list from First Class Maths. He also has some excellent papers, so make sure you check those out as well. I have produced a very likely paper alongside this one. Subscribe and you'll get automatic notifications of any other videos that I produce in the build up to the exams. I would recommend you have some music on in the background. Also, I would strongly recommend you download a copy of this video. Attached to the description of this video, you will find a link to a Google Drive where you can access all of the papers that I've produced for the paper 3 revision. I would recommend you either attempt the paper beforehand or do it alongside the video and have some music on in the background, make it a lot more enjoyable. And again, please do subscribe if you like. Okay, so again, this is a copy of the paper. We've got basic instructions. Take slight note, information on the question breakdown can be found at the end of this paper. So it gives you the complete First Class Maths revision or key topic list, and also some information on how I've compiled this paper. Paper is out of 110 marks. And we'll crack straight on. Question 1, scatter graph shows information about the age and weights of some babies. Describe the relationship between the age and weight of the baby. So it doesn't say describe the correlation, it says describe the relationship. So I would say that there is a positive correlation, and I would describe between what? Correlation between and then I'll just crib the back of the question, between the age and weight of the babies. Okay, another baby has a weight of 5.8 kilograms. Use a scatter graph to find an estimate for the age of the baby. So typically a 2-mark question, we typically pick up the first mark for drawing a line of best fit. So if I put a line and then I'll move it around. So that's just very roughly drawn. I'm just going to make it red to match my writing colour. Right, and then I want to, in effect, you'll do this with a ruler. You'll move it around to match, best match or roughly match the correlation of the graph. Doesn't need to go through 0, 0, doesn't need to go through any points, just needs to roughly match what we've got there. And then we've got a weight of 5.8. So we go 5.8, which is going to be here. We go across to our graph, and then we go down, and then we pull off that value. So that's looking roughly sort of 3.5. So 3.5 months. And let me just check the mark scheme for the range of values that are acceptable there. So it says, there we go, anything between 3.5 and 4.5 is acceptable there. Okay, question 2. Renee buys 5 kilograms of sweets to sell. She pays £10 for the sweets. Renee puts all the sweets into a bag. She puts 250 grams of sweets in each bag. She sells each bag of sweets for 65 pence. Renee sells all the bags of sweets. Calculate her percentage profit. There's a number of ways that we can go about this. The way I'm going to go is I'm going to work out the money she makes versus the money she spent. So to do that, first of all, I need to work out the number of bags that she's sold. So I'm going to do 5 divided by 0.25 because I've got a mixture of units. So that's just converting 250 grams into kilograms. And that will give me the number of bags, and I want to times that by 0.65 because that would be 65 pence in pounds. Right, let's bring up my calculator. Although I think that's going to be 20 times by 0.65, which would be £13, but let's use our calculator. So 0.25 times by 0.65 gives us £13. So she's made £13 and she's spent £10. So the profit is going to be, so percentage profit will be the amount of profit she made, £3, or 13 minus 10, divided by her initial investment or her initial spend, which is £10, times by 100. So that's 3 over 10 is, so that's going to be 30. So she makes a 30% profit. Right, question 3. Show that can be written in the form, so we're expanding a triple bracket so when I'm expanding a triple bracket, the way I will do it is I will always save the easiest bracket for last, just to avoid any mistake. Well, not to avoid, but I'm less likely to make mistakes when I'm multiplying the final bracket, which is going to be the most complicated one because there'll be 3 terms that I need to look at. So I'm just going to concentrate on the back 2 brackets. That's going to give me, so I tend to use the construction line method. So 2x times by 3x would give me 6x. 2x times by 7 would give me 14x. 1 times 3 would give me 3x. And then 1 times 7 would give me 7. Then I want to tidy up that middle part. Just going to make that a little bit clearer. So I've got x plus 3 multiplied by 6x squared plus 17x plus 7. Right. So equals. Right. So I'm going to times everything by x, and I use a slightly different method for this. I tend to line them up just to make my adding easier. So if I times this bracket by x, I would get 6x cubed plus 17x squared plus 7x. Now, if I times everything in this bracket by 3, 3 times 6x would give me 18x squared. And I write that underneath my other x squared. 3 times by 17, 17 times by 3 is going to give me 51x. And then 3 times 7 is going to give me 21. Then I'm adding kind of those two together. That would give me, I'm going to put it over here actually, 6x cubed plus 17 plus 15 is going to give me 35. Plus 58x plus 21. Right. And you could have multiplied that out in a different combination. That would be absolutely fine. That's just in my head the most straightforward way for doing it. Right. The next one is solve. So I'm going to start by square rooting both sides. I just find this a slight dilemma. Technically speaking, I've got a choice. I could multiply out this bracket, take everything over to one side, and then solve it by factorizing. My alternative method is that I can square root both sides, provided I bear in mind the fact that I will create a plus and a minus version here. And the way that I'm going to do it, I'll do it that way. So I'm going to square root both sides. That will give me 1 minus x. Yeah, it has to be greater than plus or minus 3 over 5. So if I move these over to the other side, I've got 1 plus or minus 3 over 5 has to be less than x. And technically speaking, because I've square rooted, I've actually got the plus or minus actually slightly switches over. I don't think that's necessarily, for an inequality, that's not really the clearest way of doing it. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to multiply out this bracket. So that will give me 1 minus 2x plus x squared has to be less than 9 over 25. Now, if I take everything over to the right-hand side now and just write it slightly differently, that would give me x squared minus 2x, and then that would be 16 over that would be 25 over 25, so that would be 16 over 25. Has to be less than 0 now. If I times everything by 25, that would give me 25x squared minus 50x plus 16 has to be less than 0. Now if I try and factorise that, the only way I can make 25 is a 5x and a 5x, or a 25 and a 1. Because of the differences here, I don't think it's going to be 25 and 1. So I'm going to go and guess 5x. Well, I'll try 5x and 5x. Two numbers that multiply together to make 16, and 5 lots of one plus 5 lots of the other make 25 are going to be 2 and 8 minus 2 and minus 8. Let me just double check that in my head. That would give me minus 40 minus another 10 would be minus 50, so that would work. And that gives me my two values. To make this bracket 0, x would need to be equal to 2 over 5. To make this bracket 0, x would need to be equal to 8 over 5. So that gives me my range. I'm looking for the section where my equation is less than 0. So I need to describe it as a single inequality. I would have 2/5 is less than x, which is less than 8 over 5. Right, question 4. At the end of 2017, the value of Tamara's house was 220,000. The value of Rahim's house was 160,000. At the end of 2019, the value of Tamara's house had decreased by 20%. The value of Rahim's house had increased by 30%. At the end of 2019, whose house had a greater value? Okay, so a decrease of 20% is a multiplier of 0.8, and an increase of 30% is a multiplier of 1.3. So if I start with T's house and do 220,000 times by 0.8, the value of this house becomes 176,000. I've just missed off the 1,000 in my calculator just to save times in it by, just to save me putting the zeros in, because it would still have the same value. And then we're then looking at R's house. So again, this time we're doing 160,000 multiplied by 1.3. So 160 times by 1.3 gives me 208,000. So whose house is worth more? Rahim's house is worth more. Okay, question 5. Find the lowest common multiple of 40 and 56. On a calculator paper, I tend to do this really simply. So I simplify the fraction. So 40 over 56 gives me 5 over 7. And what it's cancelled down by would be the highest common factor. If we want the lowest common multiple, we would times any numerator by the opposite denominator, or the other way around, or either way around. So it's either 40, well, it is 40 times 7, which is also equal to 56 times by 5. They'll both give you the same value, which would be the lowest common multiple, 280. And just to show that, 56 times by 5 is also 280. Okay, highest common factor of two numbers written in index form just becomes the factors that they have in common. Write down the highest common factor of A and B. So they've got 2 squared in common. They've also got 3 in common, and they've got 1 5 in common. So that's going to be my highest common factor. which is going to be 4 times by 3 times by 5. It's going to be 60. Right, question 6. Kieran has 13 workers he can use for a job. He knows that 6 workers would take 14.5 days to complete the job. Show that Kieran has enough workers to finish the job in less than 7 days. In less than 7 days. Okay, so this is an example of indirect proportion. So the more workers, the quicker the job. Or the less workers, the longer the job will take. In effect, what we have is 16 times by 14.5 needs to be equal to 13 times by the new number of days. So the multiple of workers and days will be equal to will be constant. So what I want to do is the number of days it would take them to complete the job would be 6 times by 14.5 divided by 13. Nice quick way of doing it. So fraction 6 times by 14.5 over 13 gives us, let's put it as a mixed fraction, 6 9/13. So will be completed on the 6th day. Completed on the 6th day. Okay, question 7. When that loads up. There we go. Question 7. Table shows information about the height of 80 plants. Find the interval that contains the median. So we've got 80 plants. So the median is going to be in the position of 80 plus 1 divided by 2. So technically 40.5. So that means that I'm looking for the 40th value and the 41st value. Right. So I'm then going to take a combination. So we'll call it cumulative frequency. So the frequency, we've got a frequency of 7 that are 20 or less. Frequency of 20 that are 30 or less, a total of 34 that are 40 or less, a total of 46 that are 12 or less. So the 40th must be in that group and the 50th must also be in that group. So the group containing the median is the group 40, h less than or equal to 50. Okay, on the grid, draw the frequency polygon for this information. Right, I'm just going to zoom out slightly to plot my coordinates, then I'll zoom back in. Right, so I need to plot all these at the midpoints. So this coordinate here is going to be plotted at 15, 7. So 15, 7 is going to be this point here. Then I've got 35 and 14. I feel like I've missed one out there. Yeah, 25 and 13, 25 and 13 will be there. And I'm actually going up in 2s, and I've gone up, so I've got my axes wrong. So 7 would actually be 1, 2 would actually be there. So 25 and 13 would be 25 is here. So 1, 2, 3 there. Then I've got 35 and 14. I've then got 45 and 12. So 45 is here and 12. And then we've got 55 and 16. So I'm slightly out with that. Struggling because my grid isn't particularly friendly for viewing it on my screen. And then finally 65 and 18. So 65 would be here and 18 would be here. Then I need to just put some straight lines joining them up. So I need to join them up with straight lines. I'm just trying to find whether there's a... I don't think that actually puts it as straight lines. No. Right, so I'm going to put them in with straight lines. Okay, so let me just put those lines in. So there we go. And let's just change them to red. There we go. Yeah, so that's going to be my frequency polygon. I'm not going to join it to 0, 0. I don't think you'd lose a mark. Let's just scan the mark scheme. Not any histogram drawn any frequency polygon outside the range of the line segment. So fully drawn, all points plotted correctly. 2 points correct. It doesn't actually mention it. I wouldn't join it to 0, 0. I don't think you'd lose a mark for joining it to 0, 0, but I wouldn't, because you're not given a value of 0. So you don't know that there is 0 between 0 and 10 centimeters high. So if you join it to 0, that would be what it was implying. Okay. Question 8. A cube has a total surface area of 150 centimeters. Calculate the volume of the cube. Well, a cube, the surface area of a cube is going to be equal to 6 times by x squared. So we know that 150 is equal to 6x squared. So if I do 150 divided by 6, we've got 25 is equal to x squared. So technically plus or minus 5, but we can't have a negative length. So x is going to be equal to 5. So the volume is going to be 5 cubed, which is 125. Right. Question 9 then. So here's a pentagon. We're told angle BCD is equal to 2 times angle ABC. So if we say that that's x, then that would be 2x. Work out the size of angle BCD. So we actually want this angle, so I'm just going to underline that just to keep that as reference for myself. So angles in a pentagon need to add up to 180 times by 5 minus 2, so 2 less than the number of sides. So that's going to be 365, 40. So the sum of the interior angles need to add up to 540. So I'm saying 90 plus 115 plus 125 plus x plus 2x needs to equal 540. So 90 plus 115 plus 125 equals 330 is plus 3x is equal to 540. So 3x is equal to 210, so x is equal to 70, but we wanted 2x, so 2x is going to be equal to 140. Right. Question 10. A rectangular frame is made from 5 straight pieces of metal. The weight of the metal is 1.5 kilograms per meter. Work out the total weight of the metal frame. So we need to work out this length here. So x squared is going to be equal to 12 squared plus 5 squared. So 144 plus 25 is going to be 169, so x is going to be 13. Let me just double check my work in there. Very common mistakes from me. Yeah. So the total length of metal for the frame is going to be 12 plus 5 times by 2 plus 13. So we're looking at 17 times 2 is 34 plus 13. So that's going to be 47. Again, we'll just double check that. Yep. And then we need to do 47 times by 1.5. So 70.5. Question 11. A cube is placed on top of a cuboid. A cube is placed on top of a cuboid as shown in the diagram. The cube has an edge of 4 centimeters. The cuboid has dimensions 7 by 6 by 5. Work out the total surface area of the cuboid. Okay, so I'm going to say that the total surface area of the cuboid, so the surface area of the cuboid, stressing over what letters to use, cube. So we'll do the cube first of all. We're going to have 6 times by 4 by 4, or 4 squared. So it's going to have a total surface area of 6 times by 4 squared. So it's going to have a surface area of 96 centimeters cubed squared. And then the surface area of the cuboid, could have called them A and B, couldn't I? Of the cuboid is going to be equal to 2 lots of each of the dimensions. So 2 lots of 7 times 6 plus 6 times 5 plus 7 times 5. So that's going to be 2 lots of 7 times 6 plus 7 times 5 plus 6 times 5. So that's covered them all, although it's a different order than I wrote it in there. So we've got 214. So the total surface area of this is going to be, this is not counted in the surface area, so we're going to have to take away that from both of the shapes. So that's going to be 96 plus 214 minus 2 lots of 4 by 4. So plus 96 minus 2 times 16, so 278. Okay, question 12. The diagram shows a rectangle STUV. All measurements are in centimeters. The area of the trapezium QUVR is 4 centimeters. Okay. Sorry, is a centimeter. Show that a is that. Okay. So right, the total area of the rectangle would be 4x times by 3x plus 5, and from that we need to subtract the area of the trapezium, which is a half of, so I should have put a is equal to minus a half of a plus b, so 2x plus 3x times by 4x. Right, so let's multiply this out and tidy things up a little bit. So this is going to give us 12x squared plus 20x. From that we need to subtract, well, this is going to be 2x, so 4x sorry, I'll do them separately. 2x times by 5x, which would be 10x squared. So that's going to be 2x squared, I missed my squared off there, plus 20x, what was I asked to show? And that's what we were asked to show, so that works. Okay, question 13. A and B are numbers such that A is equal to, B is equal to, find the highest common factor. The highest common factor, we did this kind of earlier. Factors in common, they have a 3 squared in common, and they also have a 7, which is going to give us 9 times by 7, which would give us 63. Find the lowest common multiple of A and B. So this is kind of, if we had a Venn diagram, it would be the union, so it would be everything included. So we're going to have 2 squared times by 3 to the power 4 times by 7 squared. So 2 squared times by 3 to the power 4 times by 7 squared. Ooh. Times by 7 squared. So that's going to be 15,876. Right, question 14. We've got Sam drives his car on a journey. Here is the travel graph for the first 15 minutes, distance travelled in kilometres, time of the day. Work out Sam's speed in kilometres for the first 15 minutes of the journey. So in the first 15 minutes, Sam travelled 20 kilometres. So if I want the speed in per hour, I've got to go 60 minutes is 1 hour. So I've times by 4, so it would be 80. So speed of, why am I writing 6? Speed of 80 kilometres per hour. At 10:15, Sam stops for 10 minutes, then drives for 20 minutes at a speed of 75 kilometres per hour. On the grid, complete the travel graph for Sam's journey. So I'll put the points in that I'm going to, so stop for 10 minutes. And then drives 20 minutes at a speed of 75 kilometers per hour. So if it is in 1 hour 75 kilometers, then in 20 minutes we're dividing by 3, so that would be 25 kilometers traveled in 20 minutes. So let's find my time first of all. So 20, 10, 20 travels 25, so that would take us to 45. And then I just want to join them up with straight lines, make them red. So there's my distance travel graph. Distance time graph, sorry. Okay, question 15. Jeremy has to cover 3 tanks completely with paint. Oh, surface area of cylinders, that strikes. Each tank is in the shape of a cylinder with a top and a bottom. The tank has a dimension of 16 meters and a height of 18 meters. Jeremy has 7 tins of paint. Each tin of paint covers 5 meters squared. Has Jeremy enough paint to cover completely 3 tanks? Okay, so I'm going to leave this information till kind of stage 3. The first thing I'm going to do is work out the surface area of the cylinder. So the surface area of a cylinder is going to be equal to the 2 circles, so 2 times pi r squared, plus the circumference, which would be 2 pi r, times by the height, which would be we'll call h for now. And so the surface area, I'm going to go and I'll just type that in. So shift pi times by the radius, which would be half of this, so 0.8 squared, plus 2 times pi times by the radius. I didn't really need the 2 times. I could have typed it in as a, we'll just get it done. Times by 1.8. So we've got a total surface area of 104 over 25 pi. So 3 lots of the surface area would be equal to, times that by 3. So 312 over 25 pi. Don't need to go decimal just yet. Jeremy has 7 tins of paint. Each tin of paint covers 5 meters cubed. I'll come back to that in a second. So I'm going to go decimal at this point now. So that would give me 39.207 ... meters cubed, meters squared, sorry, that needs to be painted. So I'm going to underline that and just say needs. And what he has is 7 times by 5. So he has 35. He has enough paint for 35 meters squared. Has. So does he have enough? No. As 39.2 meters squared is greater than 35 meters squared. So I've answered it and included the 2 figures because the working, that's not too bad actually, but the working can get quite stretched out. Okay, question 16. Diagram shows a triangular prism. Base of the prism is a square of size 15 as shown. We've got right angles here and here. No, ABE, ABE and CCBE. So we've got right angle here and here. Okay. M is the midpoint of DA. M is the midpoint of DA such that D to M, is a point. So we've got an M, let's say here, 2/5 and 3/5. Calculate the size of the angle between EM, and the base. So we want this angle here really. Okay, so I'm just trying to work this out in my head. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 2 triangles to help me out a little bit. So if I call that M, A and B, I know that's 15, and I actually want to work out, I think, this angle here, which I'll call X for now. And I know that this is 3/5 of 15, so I know that that length there is going to be 9. Right, so I can use Pythag to work that out. Then I'm going to draw another triangle. So this is going to be my next stage. And this is MBE. So M to B is now side X, but we don't know this height, which is the next thing that we're going to have to work out. And provided I've got that, it's that angle that I'm trying to work out. Right, so I'm going to start off by working X. So X squared is going to be equal to 15 squared plus 9 squared, which is going to be 15 squared plus 9 squared. So it's going to be 306. So the square root of that then, X is going to be equal to, does that third simplify? It does 3 root 34. Right, I now need to work out Y. And I can do Y from the fact that 15, 35, so I can use basic trig to work this out, and using a missing side. I'm going to change pen just because I tend to label the 2 sides that I'm working with. So I'm using the tan ratio, so TOA, and it is the O that I'm trying to work out. So y is going to be equal to 15 times by tan of the angle. Sorry, we know what the angle is, don't we? It's 35. Right, okay, so I'm going to keep it like this. I'm going to resist the urge to decimalize that. And back here, it's the tan ratio again, isn't it? Size of EM with the base. So I think, again, we're using the tan ratio. Tan of the angle, well, the angle is going to be equal to tan to the minus 1 of opposite over adjacent. And that's the point that I'm going to go to my calculator. I'm going to type in a nasty sum. So tan to the minus 1 of y, which I said was 15 tan 35. And I want to divide that by my last answer on my calculator. And that's going to give me 30.9815 ... So I'm making it to one decimal place. That's actually going to be 31.0. Right, question 17 then. We've got cross-section of a prism is a right angle triangle. The base of the triangle is 15 centimeters. The prism has a length 25. The prism has a volume of 750 centimeters. Work out the height. Okay, so the volume of a prism is equal to half, in this case, the cross-section, which is a triangle, half of 5, if we call it x for now, 5x times by the height, which was 25. And we know that that's 750. So I'm just trying to work out how I want to tidy this up while I'm writing. So 750 is equal to, well, 5 times 25 is 125 over 2 times by x. So we can actually do 750 divided by 125 over, didn't need to press that twice, over 2. So we get a value of 12 for the height. Okay, question 18. The diagram shows a prism placed on a horizontal floor. So we've got pressure. The prism has a height of 3 meters. The volume of the prism is 18 meters cubed. The pressure on the floor due to the prism is 75 newtons per meter squared. Work out the force extended by the prism on the floor. So we need to start by working out the area of the cross section. So the volume of the prism is equal to the cross section. We'll call it x again. So x times by the height, so times by 3. And we're told that that's 18 is equal to 3x. So x is equal to 6 meters squared. So that's our area. And then we want to work out the force. So if I rearrange this equation, the force is going to be equal to the pressure times by the area. So that's going to be equal to pressure 75. It is in consistent units, newtons per meter squared, so times by 6. So 75 times by 6 gives us 450 newtons. Right, question 19 then. So we've got a triangle, ABC and DEF are parallel lines. ABC, DEF, parallel lines. Work out the size of angle X. Give a reason for each stage of your working. Okay, so just trying to find the most efficient method for this. Okay, so I'm going to start by this angle here. I'm going to say that ABE is equal to 180 minus 110. So it's 70 degrees. Then my reason is it's supplementary or co-interior. Co-interior angle, and they equal 180 degrees. Right, I'm then going to say that this angle here, so BEG is going to be equal to 180 minus 25 plus 110. I was just seeing whether there was actually a bit of a shortcut I could use, but I can't quite spot it. But okay, 180 minus 135 is going to be 45. Just double check that. I've got a feeling I've done that wrong. .45, yeah. So that angle there is 45, and the reason for that is angles on a line. (180 degrees). Right, I can also use the same process to work out that angle there. So angles along a line. So I'm going to say that EBG is equal to 180 minus 70 plus 35. So that adds up to 110. So that's 75 degrees. And then as above, same reason. And then that leaves me with 75 degrees there. So that means that x is going to be equal to 180 minus 75 plus 45. So that adds up to 120, so that would be 60 degrees. And that is angles in a triangle. Equal 180. Okay, question 20. N is an integer greater than 1. Prove algebraically that n squared minus 2 minus n minus 2 squared is always an even number. Okay, so the way I'm going to do this is expand this bracket first of all. So n squared minus 2 minus, and I'll multiply out the bracket, so n squared minus 4n plus 4. Right, that's negative, so that's going to affect all of my values. So I'm doing n squared minus n squared is 0. Minus 2, no, sorry, I'll do my n's next. Minus 4n becomes plus 4n. And then minus 2 minus 4 would give me minus 6. So what I'm going to do then is take out 2 as a common factor, so 2n minus 6. And then 2 times any integer will be even. And I've misfactorized there, that should be 3. Right. Find algebraically the set of values for x for which. Okay, so I'm going to have to factorize both these parts. I'm hoping this one factorizes. It looks quite nasty. So the first one is a difference of 2 squares, so it would be x plus 7 times by x minus 7 is greater than 0. So that gives me the two values of either x's. To make this true, let me do the inequalities in a second. X would need to be equal to minus 7 or x is equal to plus 7. And we're after the section where the graph would be greater than 0. So that is when x is less than minus 7 or x is greater than 7. Right, for the second one, So again, so let's, anyway, we can make a 5x squared is 5x and x. If I think about factors of 72 now, so 72, we could have 1 and 72, which isn't going to work to make a minus that. We could have 2 and 36, which would give me close. So I could have 36 minus 10, minus 36 plus 10 even. Which doesn't quite work though. We could have 3 and 24, so 23 and 24, which would give me 10, so we wouldn't have a difference of 10, so let's try 4 and 18. That would give me 18 and 20, which again doesn't work. I'll start to panic. 6 and 12. So that would give us 12, 12 and 30, which don't have a difference. Ooh, 8 and 9, let's try that. That would give us, could go either way here, 40 and 9, yeah, 40 and minus 9. So we've got minus 40 plus 9. Okay, right. That was looking nasty. Right, so that gives us x is equal to minus 9 over 5, or x is equal to 8. And again, this time we want, so x has to be less than minus 9 over 5, or x has to be greater than 8. So that satisfies both. Right, minus 9 over 5 is 1.8, so x can't be less than, so x is, so if I'll put them under each other just to make it a bit more clear, minus 1.8, and x has to be greater than 8. Okay, so x has to be less than minus 7, or x has to be greater than 8. So that's my solution. X has to be less than minus 7, or x has to be greater than 8. Because if we think about it, if you imagine drawing these on a number line, in effect, that would kind of work, wouldn't it? So we need them to overlap, so if I say that's minus 7, that's not very clear, sort that out. That's at minus 7, that's at minus 1.8, and then over here, I'm trying the wrong ones there. So here we need the double lines really, so it's got to be less than minus 7, and here we've got to have the double lines, so that was 7 and that was 8, so greater than 8. Okay. 12-sided polygon, RT is the diagonal of the polygon, work out the size of the angle, RTS, 12-sided polygon, where RT is the diagonal of the polygon, work out the size of STR. Okay, so STR is going to be that angle there. So we're going to say the exterior angle of a 12-sided polygon is going to be equal to 360 divided by 12, so that's going to be 30 degrees, which means in effect that these two would form an equilateral triangle, so and they're going to be equal to 30. We could do it as 180 minus, so 30 degrees has to be equal to 2 theta, because the two sides are equal to the exterior angle of the third, so 15 is equal to theta. I feel like I've not done enough steps there, but that's definitely right. We could have, if we really wanted to show it, we could say that that angle there would be equal to 180 minus 30, so that would be 150, and then 180 minus 150 divided by 2 is equal to theta. We still get 15. I don't think there's really any need for that step though. Okay, question 23. C is a circle with the centre at the origin. Tangent to the circle, the tangent to C passes through the points minus 2, 0 and 0, 10. Work out an equation of C. Okay, so I'll draw a little sketch just to help me explain it. So minus 20, 0, minus 20, 0. Okay, minus 20, 0 and 0, 10. So in effect, this is kind of what we got. What we want then is so the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to work out the gradient of the line created here. So the m of that is change in y, which is going to be 0 to 10, divided by the change in x, which is going to be minus 20. So the gradient it's going to be 20. So the gradient of that line will be a half. So if we want then we've got the gradient of this line. So the gradient of the radius is going to be equal to the negative reciprocal of that. So I kind of want the equation for this for now, although C is irrelevant to be fair, because it will pass through the centre. So the radius is going to be y is equal to minus 2x, and we know that it passes so that's the equation of the radius that passes that meets the tangent. So if I go back to the tangent, we know that y is equal to a half x, and we know that it intercepts the c-axis, the y-axis at 10. And we know that these have got to be equal because we now want the point where they intersect, so I'm after this coordinate here. So if I say minus 2x is equal to half x plus 10, and I'm expecting this to be negative anyway. Right, so I'm going to say that minus 10 is equal to 2.5x. So x is going to be equal to 10 divided by 2.5. So it's 4. Minus 4, sorry. So the coordinate there is going to be minus 4 minus 4, and the y coordinate is going to be 8. So the radius is going to be equal to so the radius squared is going to be equal to minus 4 squared plus 8 squared, which is going to be 16 plus 64, which is going to be 80. Right, so if we come back then, we can go straight to it. The equation of a circle through the centre is going to be x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. And we've just found r squared to be 80. So the equation would be x squared plus y squared is equal to 80. Okay, question 24. Show that this has a solution between 0 and 1. So when x is equal to 0, we would get 0 squared plus 0 minus 5. So we would get minus 5. When x is equal to 1, we would get 1 cubed. That should have been a cubed. It doesn't affect the 0 though. Plus 7 minus 5. So that would be 1. That would be 8. That would be 3. So as signs change, a solution lies between x is equal to 0 and x is equal to 1. Right, part B, show that it can be rearranged to give this. So let's just look at how we would go about that. Okay, so I always find it useful to actually look at this to work out how I'm going to rearrange this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the 5 over to the other side to get x cubed plus 7x is equal to 5. I'm then going to factorize this to say x is equal to x squared plus 7 is equal to 5. I'm then going to divide by this bracket, so x is equal to 5 divided by x squared plus 7, which is what we're asked to show. Right, start with the iteration of x is equal to x0 is 1. Use it 3 times, so I'm going to once, twice, 3 times. Okay, so the way I would do this is I would put 1 into my calculator. So 1 equals, so 1 is now my answer, and I want to do a fraction with 5 as my numerator and my answer squared plus 7 as my denominator. So my first value would be 5 over 8. My second value, pressed it too many times. Let's do that. I can't go back. So we'll do that again. So 1 is my calculator memory, then I want 5 over my answer squared plus 7. First time 5/8, second time 320 over 473, third time 0.670444. Okay, I'm going to go decimal on that last one. 320 over 473 as a decimal, 0.67653 ... I'm not going to get into this debate. You do a lot more about this at A level. Technically speaking, if I'm only using these values, I should really only put 0.7 actually, because I haven't done it enough. because currently this rounds to 2 decimal places to 0.68, and this would round to 0.67, so they haven't got a common, the only value that they round commonly to, so I would need to go more accurate, but that's more of a debate for or an introduction to the A-level spec, so I'm going to put that. Okay, part D, by substituting your answer to part C into the solution, comment on the accuracy of the estimate. Okay, so I'm going to use the exact value rather than the rounded value, so I'm going to say my answer cubed plus 7 lots of my answer minus 5 is equal to x3 cubed plus 7 times x3 minus 5 would be equal to 0.0453 ... Comment on the accuracy of your solution. So if I substitute it in, my answer is very close to 0, so my answer is very close to 0. 0. So my estimate is very close. Ooh. Pen stopped working. Close. Let's write the word again. Very close. Okay, question 25. Diagram shows a parallelogram. The area of the parallelogram is greater than 15 centimeters cubed. Show that. Right, so in my head I've got one of two strategies that I'm just trying to weigh up here. So I could work out the vertical height by saying this is 90, so this would be 60 degrees. So we could work out the vertical height and times that by that, and say that that has to be less than 40. Or alternatively, I could use the sine rule, the area of a right, which I actually think, and I'll explain why as we go, is going to be more straightforward, and then work out the area of one of those and double it. So if I say that the area is going to be equal to 2 lots of a half AB sine C, well, what I actually get then is the half and the 2 cancel, so I'm just multiplying these two brackets together. Times the sine of 150, which works out to be, I think, a half. Sine of 150 is a half, yeah. That actually really simplifies quite nicely, quite quickly. We're told that the area of the parallelogram is greater than that, so 15 has to be greater than half of 2x minus 1 times by 10 minus x. So 30 has to be greater than, and then if we multiply out this bracket, that would give us 20x minus 2x squared minus 10 plus x. Right, so if I take everything over to the right, to the left, sorry, that will give me 2x squared, and then we've got 20 plus 1, so minus 21x, and then add 10 on both sides, plus 40 has to be greater than 0. And that's what threw me. Over here, we were told that the area is the parallelogram, the area of the parallelogram is greater than that. So I've got my inequality symbol the wrong way around. Right, so, and that's what we were asked to show. Find a range of possible values. So let's see, hopefully this will factorize again. If not, it's going to be an awkward one to complete the square. We might have to use the formula. So 2x and x, and then factors of 40 are going to be 10 and 2, 8 and 5, 8 and 5, 8 and 5, 8 and 5. So double negatives, so minus 16 minus 5 is minus 21. And that gives me the values of x is equal to 5 over 2, or x is equal to 8. Right, and then we want the bit where the graph is less than. So we want 5 over 2 has to be less than x, which has to be less than 8. There we go. Right, this diagram shows part of a graph y is equal to x squared minus 2x plus 3. By drawing a suitable straight line, find an estimate for the solution of. Okay, so if I start with this graph, start with this equation, minus 1 is equal to 0. I want to rearrange it to make the same as this. So I want a plus 3 here, so I need to add 4 on both sides. And I want a minus 2 here, so I'd have to add x to both sides. So x squared minus 2x plus 3 is equal to x plus 4. So I need to draw the graph of y is equal to x plus 4. So we have an intercept of 4, and we have a gradient of 1. So for every 1 across, it's going to go up 1. So for 2 across, it goes up 2. Right, and we put in our line. Okay, and let's make that red. So that's the line of y is equal to x plus 4, and then we're reading off our two intercepts. Zoom in a little bit. So we're looking at x being equal to, if we're going in ones, roughly minus 0.2. No, minus 0.3. And x is equal to, the other point is, there would be 3, so it looks like 3.3. Okay, point P, let's just check. There'll be some range of values for this one. What does it say? Accept answers in the range of minus 0.4 to minus 0.2, so we're slap bang in the middle, and minus 2.2 to 3.2 to 3.4. So yeah. Point P is the point on the graph of y is equal to x squared minus 3x plus 3, where x is equal to 2. Calculate an estimate for the gradient of the graph at point P. So where x is equal to 0.2. Right, that's that point there. So we're going to have to create a tangent to the graph. So, right, so let's place a line to create a tangent here. We're well off there. So this will take a bit of moving around. So that looks okay. And then if we look at the gradient of the graph at that point, then I'm going to go there to, unless I've got any nice points, I'm going to go the full triangle. Okay, so it's looking like, what have we got? 9.2. 9. M is equal to 9.2 divided by what have we got here? It looks like 3.4. Sorry, 5.4. 5.4 minus 0.4. So we're looking at 9.2 divided by 5. So I'm going 1.84. And again, we'll have a range because we're drawing a tangent, normally quite a bigger range than, so they're saying anything in the range of 1.6 up to 2.5, so we're in that range. And that brings us to the end of the paper. Right, so as I mentioned earlier, at the end of the paper, we've got the key topics, from First Class Maths. I've already produced a very likely paper. If you haven't watched that, I would definitely give that a look. That's not this paper. This is based around the 5 and the 4 stars. This paper is based around the good chance topics. So these are 3-star likelihood. It's no guarantee that these will come up. It's just forecast based on an analysis of past series of questions and the topics that appeared on paper 1 and paper 2. I took all of the 3-star topics and used Pearson's enhanced skills map to map the questions out. Once I'd done that and covered at least an aspect from each of these, I then arranged it in mean difficulty order, so it built from easiest questions up to hardest questions. Before I sign off, I will just bring up the skills map. Okay, so this was the questions and then arranged in mean difficulty. Slight difference. Your paper, this paper that I kind of planned to put together was out of 91 marks. I think yours was out of 110. That's because a number of the questions, such as this one, I was only really after part B. But the other skills are quite relevant, so I kept the other skills in. I've done that quite a few times, so that's why yours is your paper is a bit higher than that. If it was just those 91 marks, these would have been the grade boundaries. These are what's expected, so you probably need slightly more. But hopefully that's some kind of indication of how you're doing, and that's the wrong paper completely. So hold on, pause that. That's the wrong skills map. There we go, that's the correct one. Yours is 110. The original paper I compiled was out of 87, so I included quite a few of questions that didn't necessarily match, but when I looked at them, they had a lot of the basic skills that were needed, so I've included them anyway. The grade boundaries for that paper would have been roughly here, so you kind of needed out of those 87, you needed about 77 for a 9, 67 for an 8, and so on. You can read those for yourselves. Other than that, I would like to just take the opportunity to wish you the best of luck for your paper. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. Again, I would strongly recommend, if you've not already, having a quick look at the very likely paper. I was just going to put an image of that up, but it appears to have frozen on me. So all I'm going to say is I'm going to have to wait for that to load up. Yes, so as I was kind of trying to say, thank you very much for your time in watching the video. I hope you found it useful. Please feel free to add any comments, questions, or feedback into the chat for this video, and I'll get back to you fairly quickly. I'm pretty prompt with that. If you found this video useful, I will be putting up others I'm aiming to put up a couple more videos before the actual exam, definitely one on Sunday night. Feel free to subscribe if you want immediate updates of when those videos go up. And good luck with your exam. I hope you get everything that you've worked for.